When people look at you and say you're not enough, that you'll never make it, that your dreams are too big for someone like you, don't get discouraged. Don't let that seed of doubt find a home in your heart. Let it burn. Let it wake you up in the morning and keep you up at night, not with anxiety, but with drive, with purpose. Because when someone tells you what you can't do, that's not your cue to quit. That's your invitation to rise, to go harder, to keep walking when it would be easier to stop. See, too many of us have allowed other people's disbelief to define us. We've accepted limitations that were never ours to carry. Somewhere along the way, somebody looked at you and decided your story before you even got a chance to live it out. They counted you out. They overlooked you. They labeled you based on your past, your mistakes, your struggles, or maybe just your silence. And you believed them. But here's what I need you to understand. The power to prove them wrong is not about vengeance. It's not about showing off. It's about stepping into the truth of who you are. It's about refusing to let lies linger longer than they should. When someone doubts you, that's not the end. It's the beginning of your resistance. That's where you find out what you're really made of. You use their doubt not to destroy them, but to build a stronger. You don't need applause to move. You don't need support to start. You don't need everyone to believe in you when you've already got the breath in your lungs and the fire in your soul. If you wait for their validation, you'll be waiting forever. Some people will never give it to you because they're too stuck in their own fear to see your potential, and that's okay. They weren't assigned to your calling anyway. You've got to be willing to keep going, even when the only voice cheering you on is the one inside your own head, because the truth is, progress often looks like isolation. It looks like grinding in silence. It looks like crying at midnight and showing up anyway in the morning. It looks like failing, learning, adjusting, and pressing on. People will look at you and only see the struggle, but they won't see the strength you're building in the process. Let their doubt drive you, not define you. Turn every no into a reason to keep knocking. Turn every dismissal into a reason to keep developing. The same people who doubted you will watch you succeed and wonder how you made it, and they'll miss the truth that it wasn't luck, it wasn't easy, it was a decision made daily to believe in something bigger than their opinions. So don't fold, don't shrink, don't let their words become your world. What they think about you doesn't have the final say. Use their doubt like a ladder. Step on it, climb higher, and keep moving. Because when you finally step into everything they said you'd never reach, it won't even be about proving them wrong anymore. It'll be about proving to yourself that you were never as small as they tried to make you feel. Let their doubt be your fuel, not your cage. There's something powerful about being underestimated. It gives you a freedom that those in the spotlight don't have. When nobody expects you to win, they're not watching, and that gives you room to build quietly, steadily, intentionally. See, some of the greatest growth happens in the dark. A seed doesn't sprout in the light first. It breaks open underground. There's pressure, there's dirt, there's discomfort, but that's where life begins. You don't need to announce everything. You don't need to tell them what you're building, what you're becoming, or how much progress you're making. Let them think you're stagnant. Let them believe you've plateaued, because the work you're doing in the unseen places will speak for itself when the time is right. People are often so focused on appearances, they think movement means noise, visibility, or applause. But real transformation, it doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just shows up later and changes the whole atmosphere. It's in the quiet moments that discipline is formed. It's in the daily choices that no one sees. The ones where you say no to distractions, no to shortcuts, no to comfort. That you become the version of yourself you were born to be. You learn to stop trying to prove your worth to people who were never meant to carry your vision. You realize their silence doesn't mean you're failing, and their absence doesn't mean you're alone. Sometimes it means you've been set apart for a reason. And let's be real, there's a kind of boldness that grows when you stop waiting for validation, you stop needing everyone to clap for you, you stop shrinking yourself to fit their comfort zone, you stop explaining your process to people who only want the final product. When you walk like you already know what you carry, you stop begging others to see it. There will be moments when you want to quit, when the silence feels like rejection, when the slow pace feels like punishment. But don't misinterpret the process. Delay doesn't mean denial, hidden doesn't mean forgotten, and quiet doesn't mean unqualified. Sometimes God will allow your development to happen out of sight so your character can grow without being corrupted by applause too early. Because if the spotlight hits you before you're rooted, it'll expose you, not elevate you. So lean into the process. Be okay with being overlooked while you're learning. Be okay with walking your path without a cheering section. It's not about who notices you. It's about what you're becoming. Let your consistency be louder than your words. Let your transformation do the talking. Because when the time comes, and it will come, you won't have to force doors open. You won't have to convince anyone to believe. Your life will be evidence. The ones who doubted you, who dismissed you, who looked past you, they'll see what grew in the silence. And you won't need to say a thing. You'll just stand there, rooted and ready, not because you fought for attention, but because you did the unseen work when no one else thought it mattered. Move in silence, but move with intention. Grow in private, but grow with power. And when it's time to speak, let your life be the loudest thing in the room. You know what's exhausting? Carrying the weight of people's opinions. Trying to live your life according to someone else's expectations. Bending yourself into shapes that were never meant to fit you. All because you're afraid of what they'll say if you don't. That kind of pressure is not only heavy, it's unnecessary. Because here's the truth. You were never created to meet every opinion, every preference, every standard that people set for you. You were created to be faithful to the purpose set before you. And purpose doesn't always look like popularity. It doesn't always gain followers or attract applause. Sometimes it means being misunderstood. Sometimes it means standing alone. Sometimes it means being willing to keep walking even when people are whispering about where you're headed. But you've got to be okay with that. You've got to get comfortable with disappointing people if it means obeying what you were made for. That's maturity. That's strength. That's the kind of courage it takes to walk in truth. See, the need to be liked will have you performing instead of living. It'll make you quiet when you should speak up and loud when you should be still. It'll push you into spaces you don't belong in and keep you from the ones that need what you carry. When your identity is built on someone else's approval, you'll always be chasing something unstable. People are fickle. Their preferences shift with the wind. So if your value rises and falls based on their applause, you'll always be empty. There comes a point when you've got to stop checking the room to see if you belong. Stop shrinking yourself because someone else feels uncomfortable around your confidence. Stop holding back the truth because you're afraid of being seen as too much. You're not too much. You're not too bold. You're not too passionate. You're just enough for the lane that was built for you. So stay in it, own it, walk it out with your head high. And yes, it's going to cost you. It might cost your relationships, opportunities, or even acceptance in certain spaces. But peace is too expensive to trade for performance. Purpose is too precious to water down for popularity. When you stop trying to please everyone, you start becoming who you really are. And that version of you, that version is unstoppable. You don't need to prove anything to anyone who doesn't even know your process. They don't know what it took for you to keep going. They don't see the nights you cried and still showed up. They weren't there for the battles you fought in silence. So why give their opinion the authority to define your journey? Why let someone who never paid the cost try to write your value? The moment you free yourself from their expectations is the moment you begin to walk in boldness. Boldness isn't arrogance. It's not about shouting to be seen. It's about being secure enough in who you are that you no longer need external permission to move forward. You become a threat not because you're loud, but because you're no longer controlled. So let them talk, let them assume, let them misunderstand, because while they're talking, you're building. While they're watching, you're growing. And while they're doubting, you're becoming. You don't owe anyone an explanation for doing what you were born to do. Let the results speak. Let the fruit show up. And when it does, let it be a quiet, undeniable reminder that you didn't need their approval to become everything you were destined to be. Some of the loudest voices you'll ever face won't come from other people, they'll come from within you. That voice in your mind that whispers doubt right when you're about to make a move. That quiet but persistent inner critic that says you're not ready, not qualified, not enough. You don't need enemies when you got that kind of war going on inside your own head. And if you don't learn how to silence it, it will rob you of everything you're trying to become. That voice doesn't show up all at once. It creeps in slowly. It starts with hesitation, second-guessing your words, your steps, your dreams. Then it graduates to fear, convincing you that failing would be fatal, that stepping out will leave you exposed. Eventually, it tries to paralyze you, holding you hostage in comfort zones that look like safety but feel like slow suffocation. You know there's more. You know you were built for more. But the internal battle has convinced you that dreaming too big is dangerous, that believing in yourself is somehow prideful. Let me tell you this. Being bold about your purpose is not arrogance, it's alignment. And sometimes the fight to stay aligned with who God called you to be will require you to shut down the negative dialogue in your own mind before you ever respond to someone else. Because your mind is a battlefield. And if the enemy can get you to talk yourself out of your calling, he doesn't even need to send outside resistance. You become your own opposition. But the power to shift the narrative is already inside of you. You don't have to believe every thought that shows up in your mind. You don't have to accept every fearful scenario your imagination runs through. Just because it sounds like your voice doesn't mean it speaks your truth. Some of those thoughts have been planted through trauma, disappointment, comparison, or past failure. But none of that has the final say. You've got to take ownership of your thinking and start confronting every lie with the truth. The truth is, you are capable. You are equipped. You are called. You've survived too much to stay silent now. You've grown too much to shrink again. You've come too far to retreat because of a whisper of insecurity. Your future requires you to show up fully, boldly, authentically, regardless of the doubts that try to make a home in your head. It's time to evict that fear, cancel the lies, and renew your mind with what's real. You want to prove them wrong? Start by proving yourself right. Not by being perfect, but by being persistent. By deciding that no matter how loud the doubts get, they won't drown out your faith. No matter how strong the fear feels, it won't stop your movement. You were not created to live on repeat in cycles of self-sabotage. You were made to break cycles, to walk in freedom, and to live with clarity. That kind of clarity doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from quiet moments where you remind yourself who you are. It comes from choosing not to entertain thoughts that belittle your purpose. It comes from making peace with progress over perfection and learning to cheer for yourself when no one else is clapping. Because if you can conquer the war within, there's nothing outside of you that can truly stand against you. So the next time doubt knocks, don't open the door. The next time fear whispers, don't answer. And the next time your mind tells you to sit down, stand up louder. Because victory doesn't begin when they believe in you. Victory begins when you